first important, the decision as an entrepreneur when he wants to move into the business is the choice of the entity. The choice of the entity is very critical, both from the regulatory standpoint as well as from a tax standpoint. While most of the cases we have seen a corporate entity is more likely than not is a preferred one. You have a private limited company having fair bit of flexibility in setting up, in carrying out the registrations and all. In certain businesses, more on the services sector, more on where the capital investment is lower, even the limited liability partnership could be a good option. That is something which can also be explored, though it has got its flexibility in terms of operations and also some benefits from a tax standpoint. But at the same time, you need to take care whether this particular entity model is suitable for a particular business, because there are certain businesses where, for example, you are seeking a tax holiday that may be available presently only for a corporate entity. Similarly, going down the line, when you have set up the business, I think what is also important to see is that, for example, if it is a research and development oriented, innovation is a very key, as we have been, listening for the last few hours, that innovation is very key to the entrepreneurship. And wherever you're doing a very high-end innovation, you're investing extensively in the research and development, and which finally gets into your final product or your final outcome, which is which is your core of the business. There are tax incentives which are available to kind of facilitate that R&D activity. So if you are setting up an R&D facility within your business, and that R&D, the outcome of that R&D is going into the product of the final product, there are tax incentives, which of course requires registration with the government authorities. It has to go through a strict process of compliance and certification, and there are bodies like DSIR which approves. There are scientists which are sitting there. So, but there are these avenues which the tax, the provisions to the Income Tax Act really provides, and those are not to be lost sight of. And if the business model supports, it's best to plan from day one. Having said that, as we have seen that from a compliance side, while the government is trying to plug the fiscal deficit and kind of take all sorts of action to really augment the revenue, the tax revenue, there is always a pressure from the tax authorities to go on to the compliances and try and see whether the compliances are appropriate. Otherwise they'll look for an opportunity to kind of pass orders or levy the taxes as an So I think what is more important in this kind of a scenario where the tax authorities are always on the lookout for opportunities to to pull in the revenue is the compliance side of it. So whether all your registrations are up to date, whether all your compliances, whether it is filing the returns or the withholding tax returns or the indirect tax returns or your regular corporate tax returns are all in time, whether the positions that you're taking in those returns are appropriate and they're justifiable. That's very critical, because it is today, any such filings that you're doing, it is one thing is for granted that the likelihood of getting under a scrutiny by the tax authorities or any such authorities is very likely. It's more often than not is going to happen. So it's better to prepare from the early stages, and that's why the compliance and the record keeping and the bookkeeping is very important. Again, one more thing which is also important is the what we have seen a good initiative from the government, and which probably entrepreneurs can take benefit, is the eBiz project. We have been talking about this the single one-stop shop registrations, because any business that you set up may need some multiple registrations under various central and state government authorities. So the DIPP, the Department of Industrial Promotion under the Ministry of Industry, has come out with this project of eBiz, which is a portal where you can make use of that portal. It's a one-stop shop where you fill all the information, and it will eventually be used to get you approvals from the required. And today the project is enabled to get you approvals from almost 29 29 approvals from your basic registrations of income tax, all your directors' identification numbers and service tax numbers and so on, and even the provident fund numbers and all of that. So there is a whole paper which is there on the website of the DIPP, which one can see. It's in the initial stages. Obviously, the vision of the government is to take it to a point where this captures as many registrations as possible. So I think this kind of facilities one should take, they should avail of, so as to save on the time as well as on the cost, and also be more compliant.